Hello, everybody. Welcome to New Orleans if you're here from out of town. Welcome to the Justice for BP Health Victims Rally. We're just about set to start. To begin things, I would like to invite up Reverend Willie Calhoun from the New Israel Baptist Church, who will lead us in a prayer.
We do say good morning to everyone. We're going to ask that you, if you're able to stand and bow your heads. Father God, at this hour we come thanking and praising you for who you are and what you do. Acknowledging, God, that you are God Almighty. We come this morning, God, to pray for those who has been impacted by what has happened in this oil spill. Those that have real health concerns. We pray for those, God, and we ask that you also touch the hearts and the minds of those that has created the situation and the problem that they have. We pray, God, for the leadership. God, giving them the insight, giving them the knowledge, giving them the resources that they need to go forward. God, not only to fight for the people that you have entrusted to them, but that in all that they do and say that they acknowledge you, God, because we know it's the right thing that we do. We ask, God, that you continue with us, bless and keep us. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray. Amen, amen, and amen.
Thank you, Reverend Calhoun. And now I'd like to introduce somebody who many of you know. Lieutenant General Honore is a native of Lakeland, Louisiana, who commanded the Joint Task Force Katrina, leading the Department of Defense response to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita in not only Louisiana, but Alabama, Mississippi as well. And General Honore has been mobilizing the Green Army throughout the state of Louisiana ever since he retired. And he's been just wonderful to have helping to fight pollution in Louisiana. And he's here to speak out for justice for the health victims of the BP disaster. So welcome, General Honore.
Good morning, and thanks, Reverend, for that beautiful prayer. Thanks, everyone, for coming. This is indeed a significant weekend in New Orleans as we celebrate the tricentennial. A lot of things going on in the city, beautiful things happening. But in the shadows of that, yesterday we memorialized the 8th year of the BP disaster. 8 years ago, 11 of our citizens were killed in this horrible accident that occurred on the BP Horizon platform. 8 years later, what we have a city where most of the people have moved on, where the federal government moved on, yet the people who did the cleanup, who went out in good faith to try and clean up this mess, and who have subsequently suffered as a result of the toxins that they were exposed to in the cleanup. Many of them were not given proper equipment to protect themselves, have been waiting 8 years for justice. 8 years. And where I come from at Point Crepee Parish, we said that's a crying damn shame. Shame on our federal government. Shame on our Attorney General here in Louisiana. And shame on the federal courts of the Eastern District of Louisiana to wait this long before bringing justice to those who continue to suffer as a result of this oil spill and the subsequent use of dangerous chemicals to try and dissipate that oil. It's a crying damn shame that as we celebrate the 300-year tricentennial of this state, that we've got citizens among us who are struggling to stay alive, hustling for public health care, when many of the doctors don't know what to do and how to treat them. And this company, British Petroleum, I asked all of you when we speak today, we don't say BP, we say British Petroleum. British Petroleum. Let's hear the people say British Petroleum. Let's hear the people say British Petroleum. A foreign-owned company whose headquarters is in England, with headquarters in Houston, Texas, came to our coast, took unreasonable risks, killed our people, lied about the response, failed to provide information that they had on what caused the incident to happen. Then their CEO walked the sands of this country as if he was a colonel from the Revolutionary Army, from King George Army. It's like a playback to that movie. And he walked on the beaches of Mississippi, and as the reporters asked him questions, after 11 of our people died and many out trying to clean up this mess, he said, "I want my life back." You know what? That bastard got his life back. And the Obama administration let him leave this country. They let the CEO leave. Many of them got promoted. And what made the case worse is the first round of settlements that were done in the courts. The state of Louisiana, Mr. Juneau and our congressional delegation bought off for what I call a slow and low payment. Low payment meaning we only accepted half of the potential fines that they could have been charged. And we gave the company 15 years to pay it off. The judge even questioned them, "Are y'all sure this is what you want to settle for?" And they said yes. And as a result of that, they gave them 15 years to pay the fine. And at the end of the 15 years, they will be able to write it off as a tax write-off. That's what our federal government did. Who allowed that to happen? Our elected officials. None of them said nothing. They were all in on the deal. And here, the first settlement for those who were injured, people were offered low-ball claims. Many people didn't accept it. And those are the people, many of them today, that found out they have extensive health issues, are here to try and seek justice. And that's what this rally is about. Remember, 8 years yesterday, and we still don't have the second round of claims. What is Judge Barbier waiting on? Is he working for us, or is he working for BP? Is the federal courts working for us, or are they working for BP? Obviously, BP got a hell of a break from the last White House under the Obama administration. They got a break. The charges for that first round in the federal court was so weak, the day after it was announced, BP stocks went up. Now, how can a company be charged with a neglect and be charged something, and the next day the charges are so low that the stock went up? That's a what? Crying damn shame. So British Petroleum is not over. It's not over because we got people here in Louisiana that's still waiting on medical assistance. It's time for the courts under Judge Barbier to bring these people in so they can have their day in court, so they can take care of themselves and take care of their family. We appreciate what every industry brings to this state, but none of them have the right to come here and harm our people and harm our environment. And that's what we do in the Green Army. We fight pollution. You might give jobs, but you don't have the right to kill our people. And in essence, what we did during the British Petroleum cleanup is we brought chemicals in that we knew that was going to be harmful. The companies knew that they're harmful. And they exposed our people to them. You know, a week ago, we almost went to war in Iraq, in Syria, over people being exposed to chemicals, deliberately. We almost went to war over it. But a petroleum company can come to Louisiana and pollute us, and somehow that's okay. It's a crying damn shame. So British Petroleum is not over. You can run all the advertisements you want. You can go around town and pass out a few dollars here and a few dollars there, but the people who are suffering know the deal. So I ask you to continue to support those who are victims and help them get their day in court, and that we find opportunities to remind our politicians that their purpose is to support these citizens, not just to take donations from these very same companies. God bless you. Thank you for coming, and God bless America. Thank you.
General Honore. Just a reminder that we do have food over on the side if anybody's hungry. Look, I need to make a couple of points because in the last 2 or 3 days, I've gotten emails from attorneys with the Plaintiff Steering Committee and also the Executive Council of the Claims Administrator, questioning the facts and statistics that we've been putting out there. And maybe to them, my degree from LSU and my MBA and my law degree from Southern doesn't qualify me to be able to, look at the numbers. But I don't have to do it myself. I can talk to the victims and the families that have been, figuring out, the big ripoff for years now. And so, they can just dispute it all they want, and they can. But we've got factual documentation to back up everything that we've put out. For example, over 80% of those who submitted a health claim have either been denied or given the bare minimum compensation. 80%. Only 40 of the 37,226 claims for compensation for chronic conditions. So those are your more serious illnesses like leukemia, lymphoma, blood diseases. Only 40 out of those 37,000 claims have been paid as of today. And what's even more disheartening is that many people that have these chronic illnesses, they don't have insurance, and they're having to spend their own. If they have life savings, they're spending everything they have on their health care. But now they're being forced back into a class action lawsuit, and they have to pay a $400 filing fee. Why doesn't BP pay that filing fee? Why doesn't the claims administrator take part of that $155 million that they got paid and pay those filing fees for these people? Or the over $600 million that the Plaintiff Steering Committee has been paid so far? So, I've got, a lot of things to counter their rhetoric, but we're prepared to do that every step of the way at Justice for BP Health Victims on Facebook. And we've got a petition that's already now, I just checked it, over 35,000 signatures in just a few days. So that's pretty good. Right now, I'd like to bring up a husband and wife who I've gotten to know over the last few days, who are just very dear people. Mr. Joshua Brown and his wife Jamie, who got really sick and are still fighting for justice. I'm sorry, Joseph Brown.
How y'all doing today? I was on the first responders team of the oil cleanup out here at Louisiana, and we started from Grand Isle and went all the way to Venice. We started from Grand Isle, went all the way through Venice on the first responders cleanup team. And during that time, we were out setting anchors for the hard boom, and we would pile drive PVC pipe into the points of the places that we were going to block off to keep the oil from getting down into the bayous and everything and contaminating everything. And during that time, I got water in my boots. Well, the water had already been sprayed with Corexic, and it caused my legs to get infected. Well, that infection got into my blood system, and it got worse, and worse. And I ended up going to the doctors, and I went to a chemical specialist in Florida. I had to go see Dr. DeSoto in Florida. He was in Destin, Florida. And he gave me a lot of supplements and stuff to help me get a lot of the chemicals out of my blood system and body and everything. And I had to go from there to another doctor in Dallas, Texas, Dr. Ray, which is also a chemical specialist. And then they sent me to a brain specialist and found out that I have some fried brain stem cells and stuff. And I have a brain fog pretty bad, so if I lose my train of thought, I apologize for it. But my wife and I both got very ill. After I ended up spending all my money, my legs got worse and got to hurting so bad that I wanted to go ahead and just cut them off. So I was gonna cut below my knees and peel the skin back and cut my legs off. My wife grabbed my son and said, "No." So they took me to the VA. I hadn't been to the VA in over 30-something years because I'd never been sick, took care of myself. Well, I told her, well, I don't think they'll even look at me. Well, the first thing they did was put me in. They said that was real bad. And they tested for all my legs at that time and tested to see what was going on. And they couldn't find any bacteria or any living organisms in the sores and stuff on my legs. And then they determined that it was chemicals that had chemical burn from the inside out. And I let my wife tell it. She's a little better at this probably. She's short, so I'm gonna have to see if I can adjust this.
2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes.
Huh?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So from his legs, he was in the hospital at the VA for a week. No other symptoms, nothing else wrong with him. And he was under medical attention, doctors and nurses, from September 2010 to November 2010. He swelled up 3 times his normal size. Everything in his body shut down. He stopped breathing 3 times. His lungs, his kidneys, everything shut down. They admitted him for 2 weeks. All the tests were coming up negative. So they treated him as a soldier with Agent Orange. What they were doing was working, so they continued to do it. And after 2 weeks, he was able to be released. He was released Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And that Thursday, we brought my son to his dad. And it was a 5-6 hour trip. On the way home, I was feeling sick myself for 2 weeks while he was in the hospital. We stopped at the emergency room. I was told I had an upper respiratory infection and a urinary tract infection and sent home with a prescription. 5 o'clock the next morning, I woke up to go to the bathroom. I expired and died in my bathroom. I came to by myself. I am a walking miracle. And I went to the emergency room because I busted my lip. There was blood on the floor that came out from my body. And I was told by 3 doctors, "How are you sitting here talking to me? Because what happened to you don't happen. You expired and you were not here. I don't have a doctor here to help you." Next thing I know, I'm strapped in an ambulance to another hospital and told anything could happen along the way, that in the hospital care, if I went down, there was nothing they could do to save me. I was in ICU 3 days. I was in the hospital 2 weeks. How do 2 people, normal people, become chronically ill within a week of each other after the spill? Is this normal? It's not. How do I deal with it? How do I live with it? I have friends. I have family. We have friends and family. We have grandkids. You can't stress. You just have to live one day at a time. You deal with it one day at a time. Something needs to be done. We need help, please.
There you go. A quote that I got, I'm going to quote one of the emails that I got from Stephen Herman of the Herman and Katz law firm. says that, "I understand and appreciate the frustration of cleanup workers and others who feel aggrieved or misled by BP. And if people want to criticize the PSC, the Plaintiff Steering Committee, that's fine. But when you look at the big picture in terms of what has been accomplished by the court, including for these cleanup workers, the progress is unprecedented in American legal history." Are you kidding me? How can they see they're out of touch with reality? So I'm going to bring up another person that I've gotten to know over the last few days that has now become very dear to me, her and her family, Miss Tiffany Odoms, and her family is with her. Tiffany's husband became very ill working the response and passed away, leaving Tiffany behind to raise her 5 children. So Tiffany will come up and talk to you. Thank you.
I'm here today to seek justice for my husband, Alonzo Odoms. He was exposed to the chemicals due to the oil spill. He was going out to make money for the family, to take care of us. And due to that, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. At first, they didn't know what was wrong with him. So we going from hospital to hospital. One hospital we went to, they wondering how he's walking. It's like he don't have blood in his body. So they giving him blood transfusion, treatment. He was dehydrated, but they don't know what caused it. So another doctor came in. He asked, "Have you ever worked around chemicals?" And he said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I'm sorry, you have blood cancer. And it's nothing we could do because you was at a 4th stage. And that's within 2 months of him working. With the oil spill, he was healthy, a 45-year-old healthy man, to go down within 2 years, to pass away, to leave us behind. And we miss him dearly. And it's sad that we have to see justice behind this. He was just going out to help us. And to be on a shrimp boat and have helicopters drop disbursements with no kind of mask, no nothing. They asked for you to go in, but how he gonna go in if he on a shrimp boat? I don't understand it. It's just so hard. So me and my family just want justice behind this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. So I think it's worth repeating, the attorneys on the Plaintiff Steering Committee have walked away with more than $670 million. And the politically appointed claims administrator walked away with $155 million. So where is the justice in this? 8 years after the spill, those who opted out of the current settlement, they have not had a chance to present their case to a jury, 8 years later. And Judge Carl Barbier of the Eastern District of Louisiana, right there on Poydras, presides over these cases. And so we need to ask Judge Carl Barbier, what's the problem? Why are we moving these cases forward? I've got let's see. Ms. Cherie Kerner, are you here? There you are. We have a couple other speakers that haven't arrived yet. I think they got stuck in traffic, so. But Cherie has got a very powerful story to tell. We just met a couple of days, and I'm very glad that she's here. I'm also very surprised that she's here. I'll let her tell her story herself. But please go on the Facebook page, like it, share it, get those petitions signed. You know, I had an ambitious goal of 50,000 by yesterday morning where we did a press conference. But, you know, there's no reason why we can't get to 1 million. We aim high. You know, let's watch this thing grow and make it grow, okay?
Thank you, Jonathan, for letting me address the crowd here. Unfortunately, our story sounds very familiar to the stories that you've just heard. The love of my life, Frank Stewart, was skiing in Aspen at a 4,000 feet elevation on February 1st. He thought this year was the year he spent all of his life sacrificing and working toward. He built his engineering business up with recent lucrative contracts, which was going to afford us his lifelong dream of traveling around the country in our new RV, just me and him. But BP killed his dream on April 19th, just this past Thursday, the day before the 8th anniversary of the BP oil spill. He died at home in my arms of acute myeloid leukemia. He fell ill on February 21st with high fever, then got spontaneous bleeding around his kidneys, went on dialysis, got about 35 blood transfusions. Then he was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia on April 9th. He died on April 19th. He worked on the BP cleanup efforts based out of Lafitte, going into the front lines in the Gulf daily for months. One of his crew members, Hamid, has already been through his ninth radiation treatment with a 50% chance that the cancer will be coming back. BP and the judge already acknowledged that cancer cases were coming, which sounds like premeditation to me. BP needs to be held criminally liable for the intentional death of thousands and thousands of our residents simply because it was more important to get rid of the appearance of oil. They should have notified all workers of the risk and seen to their safety to minimize it and advised them what type of medical care they should receive in advance to ensure the cancer would not escalate to advanced stages. BP murdered my husband, and I will hold them accountable. And as his political friends send me their condolences and come by and ask me what they can do, they'll do anything for me, anything I ask. Well, then do everything in your power to help me hold BP accountable for his murder.
Okay. So here we are 8 years later, and I know that most of America has forgotten about this disaster. I was involved from the beginning. Just a few days after the Deepwater Horizon exploded and sank, I was in a plane flying over it. And I had never flown in a small plane before, but I ended up doing that all throughout 2010. And if I wasn't on a boat flying out over the Gulf where the oil was gushing, I was in a boat going all around our wetlands and documenting the damage, taking media from around the world. And I know that these illnesses are real, because while I wasn't part of the official cleanup response, and I didn't live in the coastal zone, I got sick. I got rashes. You know, I got strange things on my skin. I got headaches. I got nausea. But I also got to witness, thousands of cleanup workers fighting really hard to protect the very land that we all love so much. Our natural resources in the Gulf are vital for the city of New Orleans. They're vital for the entire Gulf Coast economy. And while all of that was getting destroyed, people were sacrificing their lives to try to make it better. And like the general says, it is a crying damn shame that thousands and thousands of people who put their lives on the line can't even get the treatment for these illnesses that were caused by the negligence of a foreign corporation. So when is it going to end? When is it going to end? You know, I went around the country talking to, you know, different conferences and did interviews on TV and the media and the radio. And there was a lot of attention in 2010. Most of it was on the environmental impacts. But the story that needs to be told, that hasn't been told by the media, and is not a story that's in the minds of the American people, is that tens of thousands of our own citizens are sick, and many have died. So somebody that I got to know, you know, very on during the early days of the disaster, and we've been friends ever since then, is here to speak, and she can tell you a lot more about the impacts that it's had on coastal communities, being a leader from down in Plaquemine Parish. Ms. Kendra Arneson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming out today. What a beautiful day for this event. Thank you, Jonathan Henderson, for putting this together, General Russell Honore for coming out and speaking on behalf of coastal parishes and its residents here in Louisiana. I represent thousands of commercial fishermen throughout my community and other residents in other industries as well. In the early days of the spill, very early days, 9 days in exactly, I took a ride, my first ride out to see the spill around Chandeleur Islands, and I didn't just see oil in the water, I seen dead sea life. And someone with a commercial fishing family, for me that was, you know, a big red flag. So I chose to get in. You know, when you're faced with any obstacle in life, you choose one of two options, you fight or flight. I chose to fight. 8 years later, here we stand. There's a few things I've had to learn through this, and the two main things that I've learned over the 8 years that I really didn't want to learn is I've learned to live sick, and I've learned to let go. And I think everybody in coastal communities and anybody that was working on this cleanup that had really bad effects from it have had to learn those two things, to live sick and learn to let go. After about 18 months following the oil spill, we started to get diagnoses throughout our community with different forms of cancer. Every other week, every other month, someone was sick, someone was diagnosed. Within a few months after the beginning of the initial diagnosis, we started to have to go to funerals within our community. After 18 months and a count of 22 funerals that I attended, I just chose to stop counting. I've been to several since then, and at this point in my life, when one comes along, I have to make one of two choices. I have to choose to send food or flowers, or I have to choose whether I go to these funerals and watch the utter heartbreak in the faces of the family that I have to let go. Some days I choose to send food and flowers out of sheer self-preservation because I just can't face one more family that's so devastated that has to learn to let go. This has been a big challenge for me because I love my community. Plaquemine Parish is where I was raised. The bayou is the love of my life. Right above that's my husband and my kids, and above that's God. I continue to fight today, and I'll continue to fight every day of my life for coastal communities in any aspect, whether it be against a chemical assault or some program for our kids at our local school. I volunteer a lot in my community, and I ask that everybody else, if you want to see change, be the change that you want to see. Recently, I received a letter from our attorneys. I swore I wasn't going to talk about this. I swore I wasn't going to speak today at all because I was told a month ago, be careful what you say, be careful who you go around, be careful how you dress, be careful who you take a photograph with because people are watching you. I was at McDonald's this morning across the river, and I caught a lady filming my family. I was with my children and my husband. But I say I will not be intimidated. Just as I was not intimidated by the free group appointed by this court that's handling this case, I will not be intimidated, and I will not be silent. I choose to move forward, and I choose to continue to speak. And I'd suggest everyone else does the same thing. Our attorney sent us a letter recently, and I wasn't going to say this publicly, but I feel if I don't, then I'm not a service to the people I serve. Our attorney sent us a letter stating that they would not represent coastal communities or their clients in the back-end litigation. These are the same attorneys that sat down with BP, created this settlement got the judge to approve this settlement. These are some of the lead attorneys on the plaintiff steering committee that have now chosen, after 8 years, when we thought the whole 8 years that they were fighting for our families, when I thought they were going over medical records for my family, they hadn't even seen them. Juneau's office has them, that's what they told me. They chose to write me a letter, me of all people, as hard as I fought, telling me that they would not represent my family. My husband has been sick. I have watched him become a shell of himself, a shell of the great man he was over 8 years' time. They have not paid anything other than the small issues that he had in the beginning. Every day I wake up and I roll over and I think, I put my hand on him in the middle of the night, you know, like you do a baby. I reach out for him to see if he's still breathing. In the morning I get up and I get in the shower and I pray the whole time I'm in the shower to thank God that I have one more day with him. My child's leg hurts and I think, is it bone cancer? His head hurts, does he have a brain tumor? These are the thoughts that go through my head on a daily basis. My kids are sick on a regular basis. Are they falling down dying? Not yet, praise God. And I hope that I keep them for a long, long time. I hope they have a healthy future and a healthy life, but I just don't know. We don't know. We considered moving and being somewhere else with our business, moving to North Carolina into another fishery. But I said, well, if we go over to North Carolina and we get into another fishery and in 5 years you finally figured out this other fishery, and then you come down with cancer, we've left our home, everything we love, the fishery we love, for what? For you to go somewhere that's not home to die. So why leave, stay and fight? This is my truth. I stand here in front of you and I speak my truth and I speak the truth of my community and I tell you we are suffering. I have not seen at any hospital room, at any bedside, I have not seen a BP representative. I have not seen anyone from the company, an EPA representative, anybody from any administration. I have not seen at any hospital bedside. I have not seen them in any funeral that I have attended. They want to put out this big PR campaign that they made it right, that they want their life back. They got their life back. We're still waiting to get our life back. Our lives are forever changed. They'll never be the same. We're learning to live sick and learning to let go. We'd like to put this chapter behind us. This court needs to hold BP, British Petroleum, accountable. Beyond Petroleum, they're calling themselves these days. Beyond Petroleum? Really? Because that's the only PR campaign that I see, is that they are petroleum. British Petroleum, Beyond Petroleum, whatever name they want to give themselves. We need the court and Judge Barbier to hold them accountable. Thank you all for coming out and spending your time with us today. God bless you.
All right. Right now, I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine that I got to know in 2010, 2011, a native of Louisiana, from Lafayette, Louisiana. His name is Mr. Drew Landry. He's a legend in these parts. Unfortunately, he lives all the way up in Montana today, but he came all the way down to New Orleans to be with us for this rally. And just hang on a sec, Drew, but I did want to acknowledge I did not want to make this a political rally. I didn't invite candidates or political elected officials because the focus is on the health impacts of the BP disaster. However, I do want to acknowledge that a candidate for the 1st Congressional District did come today. And so I think we should keep our eye on him. His name is Jim Francis. You know, he at least came to hear, the stories of what's happening with this grave injustice. So thank you, Jim Francis. All right, Drew is he's a trip, and he wrote a song about BP, and he's gonna play it for us right now. He played it. Who was that you played it for? He played it for. He played that song. He serenaded the Oil Spill Commission back in 2010, and it went viral on YouTube. You can watch it, but he's got a song to play for you all today. And after that, we'll have General Honoré, and then we've got another special musical guest.
Yeah. Boy, it's been a long ride, this thing has. The people that tried to fight for the people with health issues. I think I think if you look back at it, they talked a lot about trade-offs. And I think that the trade-off was the health of our cleanup workers and our coastal citizens who got sick that weren't even cleaning oil. They just happened to live down there. And man, I know you only heard a few people that were sick, but for me, it was the kids in South Plaquemine Parish, and it was just being able to watch Kendra stand up for her community, you know. And I guess it started with Katrina and this gentleman back here. And I think Mr. Honore told people back there they were stuck on stupid. I believe these jokers are stuck on stupid. Let me see if I can get this guitar without a strap. Just a little something. Oh, it was a long time ago. They had all the food and water, and a ton of damn supplies. And nobody had ever seen that old Category 5. The nightmare was the levee broke, flood waters on the rise, baby. Saying all them good intentions couldn't save nobody's life. You know, pissed off politicians will be busy pointing fingers, and our troops are overseas. And the president will try to blame the whole thing on the governor when the government's still too slow with relief. But when you look back on the moment, remember days gone by, maybe next time all the old and sick and poor won't have to die. Oh, everybody wants the credit, baby, and nobody wants the blame for them floating down the Mississippi, down to the Pontchartrain. Living dead out on a deep sea rig, but doing what it is they had to live, all bleeding from a gaping hole, up and down the Gulf of Mexico, Morgan City out to Mobile Bay, and past Gagula down to FLA, and me, I'm stuck out here for 7 more, just watching everything turn black offshore. Somebody, would you tell these fools in office, it don't split down party lines. Just 'cause we ain't got a dollar don't mean we ain't worth a dime. Down in Cambridge Parish, all the way to St. Bernard, you got shrimp boats on the high ground, man, the carpets in the yard. And there's old Catfish in Mississippi. He wasn't here today. Lori and Bubba Williams wanted to go back to crabbing, but the crabs kept dying in the traps for years. She probably won't live much longer. In the middle of this whole thing, my sister decided to kill herself. Boy, that sucked. But we brought people to D.C., to health and hospitals, to EPA, to the legislature, and we did this for 8 years. Nobody's really gave a shit yet, and that's the truth of it. Because the people were the trade-off. Because it was probably the biggest man-made disaster in the world, and nobody wanted to pay the bill. But when you walk along, can you find that spirit? Will you sing your song for all those folks you know that might not ever hear it, only skin and bone, baby, with just flesh and blood? Man might waste a lot of days, and we all need God's love. So I want to thank Jonathan Henderson for doing this when everybody else had kind of given up. And if anybody feels like they need to tell their story, I am finishing a documentary that I hope makes a difference. And I love you guys for being here because, boy, it's a pain in the butt to get out on a Saturday morning. And I thank all y'all for being on this journey. Every one of you. Let's keep old BP from being stuck on stupid there, General.
Well done, Drew. Didn't he do a great job? How about another big round for Drew? And I agree, Jonathan and his volunteer team have done a great job in bringing to light this 8th year memorial where we still seek justice. As good as he is, I want to give an opportunity if there's anyone here today that have suffered as a result of this catastrophe and you're a survivor and a victim, would you like to come tell your story? Anyone here today that did not get a chance to speak and you'd like to come tell your story, we got an open mic. If you've been affected by this event, this British Petroleum poisoning of our people, if you're here, raise your hand. We'll recognize you and bring you up so you have your voice. I see no one. So in my thanking everyone for coming, it's also an opportunity to re-challenge British Petroleum, Judge Barbier, and those big-time lawyers who got all that money. I don't despise them for what they do. I despise them for what they didn't do. And that is to take care of the people. And in the last story, where they've decided that they're going to walk. You know, they bought their yacht, they got their plane, and now they decided they're not going to represent the people anymore. The whole system of how people are taken care of on these major catastrophes is as corrupt as hell. People waiting for 8 years and being told a year ago, hey, we're not representing you anymore, after they've taken over $100 million. And people waiting 8 years. It almost looked like a setup by British Petroleum. It almost looked like a setup by the lawyers. It's almost a setup that our state attorney general don't recognize the suffering of our people. Oh, wait a minute. Our state attorney general, Jeff Landry, has said more than once, his job is to protect the oil and gas industry. How in the hell we elected him? His job, he said more than once, is to protect the oil and gas industry, not protect the people of Louisiana. This is the state we're in, folks. Take a look at how your state legislators voted in the last few weeks on a bill to try and put air monitoring in. Guess what they said in the Natural Resource Committee? No. Guess what they said to testing water for lead? No. Guess what they said to stop the burn in Colfax, where people are being exposed to open burn? The only public open burn site in America is in Louisiana. It's a violation of the Clean Air Act, but Louisiana continue under this governor and this DEQ to give them a permit to operate. And we've got clear data that shows it's affecting the health of the people. And what happened when we put that bill before the Natural Resource Committee? No. So we got this company, Clean Harbor, continuing to burn military-grade ammunition and fireworks from Disneyland in an open pit. What they do is put a big piece of metal on the ground, light it a fire, and let it burn. And that smoke goes off into the community in Colfax. Only private open burn site in America. Clearly under the Clean Air Act, open burning is against the law. But they're allowed to do it, they bring it here to Louisiana. We have to teach our children. We have to teach them when they vote to not vote in stupid politicians who are going to be lapdogs to the oil and gas company. They're here for one reason, to make money. We need the oil and gas. I came here today in a car that uses gas. But that don't give them the damn right to come pollute our state, does it? Does it? But somehow our legislature feel that is a fact. We had a legislator in the Natural Resources Committee last week. This is an educated lady from the North Shore in the House. You can figure out who she is. And we were talking about the air monitors, and she said, General, that smell is the smell of money. That's what they think of you. It's the smell of money for them and their parties that they go into in Baton Rouge during the legislature. I hate to bore you with this, but unless you get up and vote, unless you go run for office, we just get the right to shut the hell up. Because we allow these same people to do the same thing generation after generation. And it's the political class that's running this place, and they continue to run it like a plantation. If we're going to be what our potential is in Louisiana, the second largest energy producer in the world, how the hell we end up being the poorest state? Answer that question. We had 170,000 miles of pipeline in Louisiana, and they want to put another one. What is that all about? Who benefits from that? Go to the Chaffalay Basin. We've almost destroyed the Chaffalay Basin. The North America's biggest swamp is almost destroyed. 10 years ago, the damn fools in the legislature let them cut down most of the cypress trees. Guess what they were cutting them down for? To chop them up, put them in bags, and sell them at Walmart. The legislature didn't do a damn thing to stop them. You know how we stopped them? Sierra Club members went to Walmart, to Costco, and said, stop buying cypress chips. That's how we saved the trees. It was okay with the Louisiana legislature. It was okay with DNR. It was okay. How can we accept that in Louisiana? If we're going to live up to our potential and still have a place where our kids can grow up and live and raise their families, we have to make sure the Clean Air and Clean Water Act is being enforced. You can come here and do business, but it's not give you the business, give you the right to destroy our ecosystem and make us sick. And this thing today is just an event in many that demonstrate that our government is not working to protect us. What did the White House do to protect you during BP? What did they do? They allowed a company to send them a bunch of BS that they didn't have the right information. If you lie to the federal government, what you supposed to do? Go to jail. Did Tony Hayward go to jail? Did the CEO out of the North American BP go to jail? They all lied about what they were doing. We let them off the hook. This is a British company. And they walk around today like they own America. The hell with British Petroleum. We owe them nothing. We allow him to come here and do business. And now they've made our people sick. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to continue to struggle, support those who are recovering and those who are being diagnosed. And let's take this fight into your neighborhood. You got a right to clean air and clean water. And if you smell your air and it doesn't smell right, you need to speak up. If your water is brown and it doesn't taste right, you need to speak up. Because if you don't speak up, you're a part of the problem. If you're here today, I know you're on the team. We need actions, we got to change policy, and we got to vote people into office, and you need to run. And we got an election coming up. You need to look at how those people you're going to put into office, how did they vote on water and air this year? And do the research. It's not hard to find out. So I thank all of you for coming today. I thank our organizers, and we got a couple more events for you. And God bless you. God bless our victims and survivors. God bless those who died as a result of this accident, and may God bless America. Thank you.
like the general said, everything he said. We are waiting for a person that we just absolutely must wait for, Mr. George Barisic, former president of the United Commercial Fishermen's Association, who's been a fearless and fierce advocate on behalf of the fishermen in Louisiana. So he's almost here. I'm going to hold out, and then we have a band. But I did want to point out that yesterday we held a press conference, and we got good media coverage. There are links, a few links have been posted on the Justice for BP Health Victims Facebook page. Share them. Please share them. We went on WWL, Fox 8, the General did yesterday on radio. He's got an op-ed. There's an article in The Advocate. We've been really doing everything that we can to make this story be heard again by people, because essentially that's what's happened. So please share them and get 10 of your friends to share everything that we put up there. And that's how we're going to continue to get their attention. We already got their attention. I feel like that's why they're starting to contact us, because I think they're feeling the heat, and we need to keep it up. We can't just end this today. And I've got a few points to make that I'll just start running through these until George gets here. But you guys have seen the advertisements that BP has spent. They're spending tens of millions of dollars, yet Tiffany Odom's family can't get justice. The pain and suffering you saw from the Brown family, it's real. It's today. And it's the same for tens of thousands of other cleanup workers and coastal residents and the military. A lot of our servicemen and women in the United States Coast Guard and National Guard were just as exposed to BP's toxic mess as the cleanup workers. But we don't hear very much about them lately, but a study came out recently proving that the servicemen and women have contracted illnesses from the work that they did in 2010 and 2011. So they need our help too. It's cancer, it's blood diseases, neurological problems, all made worse by the toxic oil and Corexit mixture. And when BP ignores the recommendation of OSHA and not require cleanup workers to be provided with adequate safety equipment, basic things that if you were going to go paint a house, you would be wearing, but they forbade you to wear that. Respirators, gloves, boots, Tyvek suits, other protective gear that, why weren't they able to wear those things? Yeah. So I think it's worth repeating that under the medical claims benefit, only 40 claims have been paid for those serious chronic health conditions out of more than 37,000 that have been filed 8 years later. Close to $700 million has been paid to the Plaintiffs' Steering Committee, $155 million to the claims administrator. Approximately $60 million has been paid to settle claims. So you do the math. Out of 37,000 claims that have been filed, only $60 million has been paid out. Meanwhile, the Plaintiffs' Steering Committee has made close to $700 million. And the claims administrator, $155 million. And that's why we're here. It's an injustice. The judge, the Plaintiffs' Steering Committee, they need to move these cases along. So George, he made it by the grace of God.
All right, everybody, thank y'all for coming. I am the quintessential commercial fisherman, and as I explained the other day, 8 years ago, I was a 54-year-old commercial fisherman, healthy as a bull. I could run my 50-foot oyster boat or shrimp boat by myself. Now I'm 62 years old, I can't breathe, I got half my lung capacity, and they kept telling me that it's nothing to do with BP. I said, well, common sense explains a little different now. How many, at the time of the year that they claimed we were getting sick, they claimed exposure, they claimed everything but the chemicals. And I explained to them, at this time of year is the time of year we make our money. We work 18, sometimes 24 hours a day, and we're getting tougher for it. So it's nothing to do with the heat or the exposure or anything else. It's that crap that's coming out with the cleanup. It's an oil, it's the dispersed oil. And we, luckily through the public opinion, like we're doing here today, we were able to force BP into including part of a settlement, a medical settlement, for people who did the cleanup work. But as we've all found out, that once the smoke is cleared, somebody is taking care of BP, somebody's taking care of everything, but nobody's taking care of us. So the poor people that got sick, that come out to do the cleanup work, whether it was fishermen, workers, or anybody else, 43% of them got eliminated just because they didn't go to the doctor right away, or within a certain period of time. Then after that, another 38% got $1,300 because they could say it was only acute problems. But as we've learned from the Valdez, luckily I got to learn a lot from Dr. Ricky Ott, that a lot of these problems are latent. They're not going to show up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. A few years ago, when we did the 6th anniversary, and then they made the settlement. The state took the final settlement, and I said, this is the end of BP's liability. Do you understand? When people do get sick, and people are going to get sick, in our environment, we haven't recovered yet, especially the oyster industry, who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for all these people that get sick? Taxpayers are going to pay for it, because nobody else is going to be standing there. Where's BP? Enjoying profits all the time. So I thank y'all very much for coming, but we need y'all start pulling and towing, tugging a little bit, saying, what's going on here? Why are these people getting screwed? This is part of, what part of making it right? I wish I had Mr. Tony Hayward here and ask him, I said, do you think this is right? Do you think these people are being treated right? Think I'm being treated right? And as I explained yesterday, I'm fortunate. I'm still standing, but I only have half my lung capacity. And when I did my research, it's going to cost $500,000 for an attempted lung transplant when I need it. What they gave me, they didn't even give me the $45,000 they promised me. They promised everybody, so then they're not giving anybody a dime, so what good is it? But I'm still catching fresh seafood, so if you want to give me a call, realshrimping.com, I'll sell y'all some good seafood. Thank y'all very much. Take care.
All right, thank you. Just give us a second. Drew's got another song to play for y'all.
All right, then. This goes out to Mac Rubberneck, Dr. John. He's been a little under the weather. He's not touring anymore, but it's one he recorded for the oil spill. We never really got it out too much, but I seen 11 good men lost their life in a rig out on the sea. They sunk that all and sprayed it, C-O-R-E-X-I-T. All that sanks on a riverbank. Tell me what this man can do. Living in the promised land, Lord, with the third world country blues. That's right, the marsh grass burned with poison. Them old fish kills could make you cry. Had to move my grass grandma how my little sister almost died. I tell you, don't you hit that water, not in the water. She might not be coming home. 'Cause empty nets and welfare checks ain't something that we want, no. You know they killed all the turtles. They killed all the turtles, man. They tried to kill the humans too. So will we go like the buffalo, like the Nazi done the Jew? You know they killed all the turtles. They killed all the turtles, man. They tried to kill the pelican too. You can spend yourself $60 billion, son, and you still can't kill the truth. No, you can't. So I took a little trip. Yeah, I could fish up in Alaska, but Lord, it's just too cold. Plus, ain't nobody ever seen no Cajun Eskimo, oh no. But all the politicians in their air-conditioned SUVs roll through. I'm thinking off this reservation, they got plans for me and you. It's 85 degrees right now, baby, and we all got the flu. All living in the promised land, baby, with these third world country blues. Thank y'all for being here. Love you. One more. All right, you got to hear another song. I'm stalling like Minnie the Moocher. All right. My church song, man. Anybody needs a little love today. So would you carry my cross if I needed you to? Would you take me across now that old river with you? Would you take my dark soul and make it anew? Would you carry my cross if I needed you to? Yes, sir, I've done some things that I'm not so proud of. And I have heard people strayed from God's love. And I'm only a sinner right now. There ain't much of a man. But today I'm a winner, Lord, 'cause I've taken your hand. Would you carry my cross if I needed you to? Gonna take me across now that old river with you. Take my dark soul and make it anew. To carry my cross if I needed you to. Yeah, my grandfather chopped down the world's tallest cypress, 'cause he could not get by on a moss picker's wage. And tell me, what can we learn from that poor joker's memory? And I pray we ain't destined to make that mistake. Tell me who paid the cost of a paradise lost. Yeah, the old folks would roll in their graves. And I thought I saw light in the dark of the night. But why can't this be paradise saved? Yes, sir. Got a job on the rig in a deep water canyon. And 'cause you could not get by on a fisherman's wage, just to watch them big planes come and pause in our ocean. And Lord, I seen the black tide kill the fish we once ate. 25 feet that old levee will breach, and there may be no going back home. Hell, I thought I saw light in the dark of that night. But it was only the eye of the storm. So I give up the dealing, Lord, all the cheating and lies. Would you help me to heal it now? The wounds I have sliced, deliver me from all evil, yeah. The needle and pain, 'cause I'm ready for your love. Yeah, and the joy it will bring. I'm real glad to see y'all. I know we know it's hot, and there ain't many of you. This is the beginning of telling the truth about this, and I want y'all to know that, you know, you think it's all over, but the cancers are just now coming. So this is the first big wave. We've weathered this, and I think as more people aren't scared and isolated to tell their story, that and in the coming years, we're going to make sure this shit doesn't happen again. And we're going to make sure that whether it's a hurricane that knocks over a refinery and there's people living there that are impacted, or whether, you know, we're able to have a voice in our future. And I think it's stakeholders and victims that are going to be part of a citizens oversight committee like they put together after the spill in Alaska that kind of changed the laws into OPA 90, that will eventually happen, but unfortunately, they're gonna have to deal with the consequences of the trade-off that, you know, when you're trying to hide that much oil, the truth's gonna come out one way or another. So if you can't collect it and you're gonna spray it, you're gonna get people sick. So this isn't the happiest subject, but it's one we've all been dealing with, and I think we're all in this fight. And I'm glad to be here with you guys, and this is the beginning of the truth coming out on this whole deal. Thank y'all very much.
Mr. Drew Landry, everybody. And I see making their way up to the bungalow right now is the Hot 8 Brass Band, who is here to play you all some New Orleans brass music. You know it can't be a rally in New Orleans without a New Orleans brass band and some red beans and rice. So they are here. They're moving. They take their time. You know, they must be tired from tour. You know, they spend 6 months or more out of the year traveling around the world, selling out shows everywhere they go. Ladies and gentlemen, making their way to the stage is the Grammy-nominated Hot 8 Brass Band.